Hey guys, so just keeping in the theme of around the grounds or catching up with everybody while we go through these crazy times. I've got another guest who's been accommodating to come along and have a chat to us all around his new industry or his industry in general. I'm chatting at the moment to West Australian retired professional cyclist Travis Meyer. So I'll just flick across and we'll say good day to Travis. How have you been anyway, Trav?
Yeah. Look, I've been all right. Obviously, as you said, it's a pretty interesting time, and a lot of, I guess, tougher things have come into place, and a lot of people are going through some tough times. So, look, I've started working from home, so like a lot of people, I guess. From my perspective, business is as per usual. So, from the finance and lending perspective, I'm actually a lot busier because a lot of people, I guess, need that nurturing and a lot more help at this stage with everything that's going on. So, look, I'm trying to remain positive. My business is still moving along, and I'm here to help people as much as I can. So it's a really important time for me at the moment. So yeah, keeping the head down and trying to stay positive.
So, for some who don't know, you retired a couple of years ago now from the professional circuit, and you've moved yourself into a personal broker or finance broker, and working in the finance detective company. That's the company that you're working through as a broker. So, what does that generally mean? So, what does your sort of general day-to-day duties include?
Yeah, sure. So look, at Finance Detective and as a finance broker, I assist clients with purchasing residential property, refinancing residential property, do a little bit of commercial finance as well, asset finance. So look, hence why coming back to why it's, I guess, a busier period for me is because people that are going through that hard moment at the moment, if they have either lost their job or they've been cut back for whatever reason, if they've got a home loan in place, a mortgage in place, it's a pretty tough time. So as anybody would be if they lost a job. So that's pretty much, I guess, it's a main focus right now is more refinancing, more so than purchasing, because obviously, as people might have seen, home opens have been closed. Auctions have been closed. So look, there's private viewings and things like that, but I think the purchase market is going to slow up. But the refinancing market is such a vital thing at the moment, and a lot of nurturing of my existing clients as well. So, that's probably where my time and effort has been, I guess, focused on at this particular stage. It's something that hopefully won't continue for too long, having this nurturing stage, I guess, for people, because I want them to be back on their feet and keeping on track of things. But, I'll keep it as my main priority for now, because I think that's where the bigger focus needs to be.
Yeah, for sure. So can you give us an idea on the current sort of landscape of the finance industry? I mean, we see home loans cut down to ultimately what is the lowest, I think, in ever time that we've seen. So what does that mean to somebody who's out there at the moment and maybe thinking about what options I've got ahead of them?
Yeah, for sure. So look, rates are at all-time lows, so it's a bit of a catch-22. The economy's going through a tough time at the moment, but in turn, the RBA are cutting cash rates to all-time lows, so interest rates are at record lows as well. So I guess it's an ideal time for people that are still employed and they're still on their feet to try and get themselves a better deal. If there's any, I guess, thought that you may get into a position that's difficult, now is the perfect opportunity to look at your finances and try and get yourself the best deal possible. So, I mean, 0.5% interest rate difference, which a lot of people that I come across, they can save that sort of amount. It doesn't sound like a lot, but in terms of repayments and easing pressure off, it can make a massive difference. So, look, there's a lot of opportunity out there to make sure that you start to look at your finances and get the best deals possible, because it's never been a better time from an interest rate perspective. In saying that, I think lending will start to get tighter, right, because banks are going to start to be a little bit cautious as to who they're lending to because of the current economy. So obviously there's a few industries that have been hit really hard. So already we're starting to see some banks, I guess, turn the tap off in that area. So they're not lending or additional lending or refinancing to people in certain areas. So look, different banks, different policies and risk appetite, but lending will get tougher. But I guess that's that's where I come into it as well, where a broker is even more essential, because your bank may not be willing to do one thing, but another bank will.
Yeah.
So it's an ideal time. If you're not looking at your finances now, look, I couldn't stress hard enough to really have a look into it.
Yeah, so now's the time. I think, as you said, what we were speaking about earlier, there's a lot of people working from home. Some would say they probably have a little bit more time on their hands than what they normally would do. So, it's a matter of looking at every opportunity that they have, whether it be tightening up a little bit on, tightening the belt around spending. But as I said, finding every opportunity to make their dollar go further. You talked about banks probably tightening up. So do you see the criteria moving forward for people who are looking for new loans, personal or home, being a little bit more difficult than what they currently have been or are now?
Yeah, look, I believe it will be. And like I said, in certain areas, in certain industries, it already has started. Mm-hmm. It really depends how long COVID-19 goes for a start. Yeah. So look, we hope it doesn't go for too long, but definitely in certain industries it will tighten up. If you're still in industries that are business as per usual, look, you may not see any real difference. Yeah. But look, we never know. The banks are changing risk appetites and policies all the time. So, that's what my job is, to keep on top of that for my clients and make sure that they're getting the right information and going to the right areas to get themselves additional lending or the best deals possible on their existing debts. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, that's really good. I think what we'll do is when we'll post your contact details and how people can maybe flick an email through or give you a quick buzz and chat through what their current situation is and what the options are for you to help.
Sure.
But just about the bike, I noticed your name popping up a bit in some of the local racing over the last few months. How have you enjoyed getting back on the bike, I suppose, and getting a little bit more competitive?
Yeah, look, I retired about 3 years ago, and I really didn't touch the bike too much for the past few years. So bits and pieces here and there just for fun. But yeah, look, I guess I got to that point where I felt like I caught the bug again a little bit. Obviously, it needs to fit in around my lifestyle and my family life and work life.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I'm happy going to the races, the local races. That's what I enjoyed when I was even a professional cyclist. And when I was growing up there, my fondest memories is the racing back home and being in Perth and being amongst all the locals and getting into that. So it's obviously just on a different scale now. So, not obviously racing in A grade and trying to compete and win those. I'm pretty competitive in B grade at the moment. And, with the amount of training I put in, I'm really happy with that. And it's good. The level has gone up significantly. So from what I remember, B grade being. So, it's a great competition. It's great that we're getting consistent racing all the time. Let's hope that we get back into that once everything sort of eases off. But yeah, I've been enjoying it quite a lot.
Yeah, look, that's the key. I think, some of the stuff that's changed, I suppose, through the last summer is, some really tight racing through the club scene. Some of that club, inter-club point series things that we saw, and it was super competitive. And as you said earlier, the quality of riders or quality of the grade levels are certainly shifting. And look, I think we'll get back to that pretty quickly. I know that there'll be a huge appetite once we get through this. These times that we're having at the moment, and I know that from West Cycle point of view, we're just constantly planning. We're spending this time. Looking towards the future and planning, as many options as we can for our members to remain competitive. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I think, look, that's fantastic. And as you said, planning can continue and you can just look to improve things once everything gets better. And look, I think there's going to be a lot of eager people to get back into the racing, me included. I was getting on a bit of a roll, so I was really enjoying that. And I think a lot of people are going to be in the same position that once things open back up, get back into the racing and the social riding as well, So I hope people out there are riding on their own or with maybe one other person, to keep the social distancing rules at bay. So yeah, look, I think people are going to be pretty keen to get back involved in group rides and club races and things like that. So be good.
Fantastic. Hey, listen, Travis, thank you so much for taking your time. As we mentioned earlier, sort of knuckling down and trying to look at all the opportunities that are out there, and I know the West Australian cycling community will will continue to thrive as we have been. And we'll, as I said earlier, we'll post some contact details where anyone can get in touch with yourself if they do feel that now's the right time for them to be looking at options from their own personal finance point of view. So, yeah, again, thank you so much for taking your time to have a chat to us.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Cheers.
Okay, take care.
Thanks.